All right, everybody, we are live with the Combatcast. It's the man they call Dave with Chevarooney, and we are going to talk some UFC 276, some of this week's fight night. But before we get started, check out the intro. Are you a fan of pro wrestling, comedy, and combat sports? Then we have the podcast for you because we cover that and much, much more.
Do you like to debate with your friends? Do we have the perfect segment for you? It's the 531. Where we take any given subject, break it down to a top 5. From there, we debate it down to 3, and then into that number 1 spot.
If you want to get a hold of us, find us on our social medias. Search Working Fans Podcast on any major social media platform. And if you want to find the podcast, search for us on any major podcast platform, as well as YouTube.
Working Fans Podcast. We put in the work so you don't have to.
All right, guys. So we're going to talk a little bit about UFC 276 and this week's fight night card. But first, Chevy, what's coming up?
All right, July 16th, we got UFC Fight Night Ortega versus Rodriguez. I'm super excited for that fight. July 23rd, later on in the month, we have UFC Fight Night Blades versus Aspinall. That's going to be a 3 p.m. Eastern card where we're going back to London where the fans are crazy. So we're looking forward to that. That whole card is going to be great. And then the end of the month, we're looking at another pay-per-view, UFC 277, Pena versus Nunes 2, the rematch.
All right. So some good fights coming up. Sorry, technical duties here. Some good fights coming up. So, yeah, interesting week, man. Me and you didn't get to watch these fights together for the first time in a while. So I was going on very little sleep. I'd been up for like 22 hours by the time I got done watching. I was also watching some stuff WWE was having. They ended up kind of intersecting a little bit, which was very strange to see some UFC WWE. I got there, and I know we're going to talk. Usually we talk the main card, but I'll throw a little love to some of these prelims because this was such a good card. I got here, and the first thing, Julia Stolienko. Is that how I'm saying her name correctly?
Stolienko, I believe.
Stolienko, yeah, submitted Jessica Rose Clark. This fight went about 42 seconds, and in that time, Julia had already gotten rocked, and then turned it around, used a takedown on her, and then grabbed her in an armbar and submitted her. I believe Julia also was the one who came out to "Sexy Boy" by Shawn Michaels. So
Jessica did, yeah.
Jessica did. Okay,
yeah. So she didn't just submit her; she snapped her arm in half.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's how we started the fight card off, with a broken arm.
Yeah, this was wild. What did you think about Julia's performance? I mean, this was I didn't realize this. I'm looking at it now. She was on a 3-fight losing streak. Like, she lost her first 3 fights in the UFC, and boy, she must have really wanted to win this one.
She needed it bad, yeah. This is a bummer for Jessica. She couldn't really get anything going. The fight was so short. You can't take too much away from the fight. So right. It is what it is. She got caught. I mean, Stolienko is a monster with arm bars. So I knew once she got on her arm, it was over. So I know that she had complained that Stolienko kept going after she tapped, but I mean, she goes until the ref stops her. And when you need a win like that, you can't risk letting up and then she gets out and they don't stop it or something. So should have tapped sooner if you thought that you were in that much danger.
It's a dangerous sport.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, be mad at the ref for not stopping it faster. So
yeah. And then we had Macy Barber with a big victory over Jessica I believe it's just like 3 in a row now for Macy Barber. She's doing great.
She looked great.
She said that her contract is up too, which is interesting. Jessica I retired after this too, which no, I mean, good for her. I mean, that was probably due. She's been around for a long time, like she mentioned. So happy for Jessica. Hope she ends up doing some good things. And what do you think about that? And what do you think about the future of Macy Barber?
Yeah. That was good. That was good, Dave.
Hey.
Yeah, Jessica I, good career. She's super tough. I'm sure this isn't how she wanted to go out, but tough opponent. She gave props to Macy Barber in her little post-fight interview that they gave her. And as far as Macy, I mean, she looks great. She's just getting better in every fight. She looked good in the clinch. She landed a lot of heavy elbows from in close. Her boxing looked good. She's getting so much better so quickly. I'm a fan. Yeah, she is the future for sure. She, I believe, is, if not the youngest, one of the youngest females on the roster, if not fighters on the roster. So
yeah,
shout out to her. The future looks bright.
Do you think she's going to re-sign with UFC?
Yeah, I think she's just banking on herself going into this fight that she was going to put on a good showing and a good win. She wanted to use as a negotiation tactic. She is young, but she is popular, so UFC's probably undercutting her on her contract, and this gives them a little bit more benefit to keep her.
Yeah, I think Dana likes her too.
Yeah. They'll sign her for sure.
Yeah, and then we had Andre Muniz defeat Lariah Hall. Pretty convincing victory. I thought he dominated. There were a few times Lariah had some hope spots, but for the most part, Muniz dominated. I was actually surprised Hall didn't get submitted, given Muniz has submitted Jacare from the positions he was in. So kind of impressed with Hall a little bit defensively in that regard, but also at the same time, really didn't show much in terms of being able to do much to get out of that position, though.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think the most disappointing part of that was both guys' cardio. They were so tired. I think that was a big problem for Uriah as far as not being able to get up. I think he was just so tired. All that grappling, tires you out for sure. But I don't know. I was disappointed with the fight overall because I'm such a huge Hall fan. I wanted him to win, and it's disappointing to watch him just get held down for 3 rounds.
Yeah, certainly. And he always has those chances too, because he's such an explosive striker. So you see that moment where he had a couple times where he's firing off, but it's 10 seconds left in the round.
Yeah.
We had the main card. Driscus Plessis. Defeated Brad Tavares. Pretty good back and forth fight there. And I'll kind of group these a little bit together. Ian Gary defeated Gabriel Green. Solid performance by Ian Gary. But Green's tough, no finish there. And also on the main, there's 2 more fights on the main card. I'll save one of them for last. We'll skip over Jalen Turner also. Choked at Brad Riddell. This was the only fight I missed on the card. So
super quick.
Yeah, I went to go get pizza. I was back. And
it was 40 seconds or something like that. It just clipped him, snatched his neck, and it was over. Bummer for Brad Riddell.
Yeah. Anything you want to add on these cards, these prelim cards before we talk about Cowboy and Miller?
Ian Gary looked good. Another good growth performance for him. Duplessis, that fight was funny. They were back and forth. Duplessis, his technique for striking is just to run in with his chin up and and swing really hard. And somehow it's just not going to work at a higher against a technical striker at a higher level.
No.
The way he was breathing, I don't understand how he was getting all the power behind those punches. He looked like he was about to keel over and die in the octagon, but yeah, he was still throwing 100%. So good on him. I'm a fan of him. It was a close fight. I kind of could have seen it going either way, but I think it was a unanimous decision for Duplessis. So good on him.
Yeah, it was. Good win. Solid undercard. And of course, the fight we want to pay a little more close attention to here: Jim Miller, Cowboy Cerrone. Miller submitted Cerrone in round 2. We thought Miller might come out with a little faster strike. Didn't end in the first round though. Cowboy, I mean, I think some of this game is mental, and I think he's certainly good enough where maybe he could still defeat a guy like Miller or something on another given night, but like it's not going to probably go beyond that. So not a bad time for him to retire. Good for Jim Miller. Not sure what's next for him at welterweight. That's an interesting weight class. Maybe that's just a one-time thing because a short notice. But I look forward to see what Jim Miller does next. But Cowboy Cerrone, hell of a career. A guy who never quite got that world championship in the UFC, but man, he was a fan favorite ever there was one, taking any fight, anytime, anywhere, and he will be missed.
Yeah, absolutely. First, Jim Miller, super slick guillotine. The way he trapped Cowboy's right arm in there with his leg in the guard, like that was amazing to watch. And all the respect to him for when Joe comes up to him and after the fight, he sees Cowboy taking his gloves off and immediately sends Joe over to him. So Jim Miller's all class. I really do hope that he makes it to his goal of UFC 300. They put him on the main event and, he can continue to win until then. As far as Cowboy, we kind of saw this coming or knew it was going to be coming, but to see him in there and actually retire was very sad. He said he didn't love it anymore. And you could kind of see that in the last few fights. Going into him, he doesn't look like he was having quite as much fun, not as amped up to be there. He always looks nervous in the first round, but he just hasn't really been there the last few fights. And I know he's lost about like 6 in a row or something like that. So we don't want to tarnish a legacy of such a great fighter. So, he's got other stuff to do. He's going to be a movie star, he said. He's been working on that. So good for him. Everyone loves Cowboy. If you like this sport, you can't not love him. Yeah.
He represents one of the good guys. All right, so we started off the main card after this. We had that's when Turner, but after this great preliminary card, we started off the main card and interesting fight to start off. Pedro Munhoz, Sean O'Malley. I thought this would be more fireworks. Instead, I think it was Kenny Florian I heard said that Munhoz didn't really kind of fight like he normally fights. He fought it a little more defensively. That being said, might have been winning the fight. Not sure. It was one of those fights. I'd have to go back.
He was winning on the scorecards, I believe.
He was.
They showed round 1 on the scorecards. I believe he was winning 2 of the 3 judges.
Okay. But then obviously there was the accidental eye pokes, and this ends up being a no contest. So do you think they run it back, or what do you think is going to happen here?
I would say normally, yes, they run it back, but because it's Sean O'Malley, they're going to do whatever he wants. If something better comes along, then they're going to give that to him. I dislike him more and more every time I see him fight at this point. I just think he's all showmanship, and I don't know. I'm not a fan. I saw on Twitter that he posted, that he finished Pedro,
right.
First person to finish Pedro or whatever. Obviously, the guy's eye was swollen shut. Pedro was winning the fight. He's not looking for a way out. So I just think Sean O'Malley's bullshit. Great fighter, but his personality makes me want to put a bullet in my head.
So there you have it. Sean O'Malley, big fan. I can't wait to see what's next. I mean, the thing is, though, they might not want to give him Munhoz back because that's a dangerous fight for him. But we're getting to that point, though, where he's going to be getting some dangerous fights no matter what. So it'll be interesting to see what they actually do with him. Right.
I think Pedro's technique, we talked about it before the fight. O'Malley is susceptible to leg kicks, and that's what Pedro was doing. He's trying to kick the legs, and I don't think Sean was liking it too much. He was giving them back, but Pedro was being smart. I think he was going to work Sean's legs early in the fight and then go for takedowns later on, or see if he could get inside later on. Because if Sean's legs are tore up, he doesn't have that power, or that ability to move out of the way of the shorter, faster guy. So I thought Pedro was looking good. That doesn't mean that O'Malley wasn't going to one punch KO him later in the fight, because that's always a possibility. But I thought Pedro was looking good. I would be fine with the rematch.
Yeah, me as well. I think O'Malley and Cejudo had some words to say to each other afterwards. Henry also had some words to say to Volkanovski too.
Of course.
I'm looking at these rankings. Sean O'Malley, I mean, the guys above him are like Frankie Edgar, and Edgar's obviously Edgar's an interesting opponent because Edgar's been knocked out a few times now, so maybe that chin. But Edgar's also an opponent like he could really put that wrestling on him, and
right. Look what he did to Yair years ago.
Right. So that's interesting. Munoz is number 9, and then you have like Song Ladong. Maybe Ricky Simon would be an interesting fight for him. A dangerous fight, just like anybody else. But number 11, maybe that's where they go next if they don't want to quite give him the level of a Munoz. Because after Munoz, then you're looking at guys Cruz, Font, Marab, Marlon Vera. So we've already seen how that went. So, which is where he's going to have to head if he's going to continue to try to.
Right. If he wins, that's where he's going to be going up. Yeah. So
we'll see how it goes.
They have options. Great division. So there's definitely options.
Rematch. I say it's Ricky Simon.
Yeah. I'd be down for that. It's a tough fight for O'Malley. It's a lot of wrestling. So
yeah. All right. After that, fight of the night, Brian Barberino versus Robbie Lawler. Just kind of went down like we thought it would. With Lawler giving his all, made a real tough, stylistic, fun fight. But Barberino being a little younger and probably almost in that role of a Robbie Lawler, Cowboy, Cerrone, Matt Brown now. I like it. I thought Robbie definitely came close to having him a few times. I thought, Barberino
rocked him big time.
Yeah. I thought for the most part, Robbie had the harder punches, but then the more the volume kept up with Barberino, eventually it took its toll. Super excited to see Barberino here at welterweight, and I'll be interested to see what's next. What did you think?
Yeah, I thought Robbie's head movement looked great. But he was slipping shots, but staying in the pocket. And then he had a lot of opportunities to land these big, heavy uppercuts and hooks he landed. I thought he looked great. And when you play that kind of game with those heavy punches, that can happen to anyone. And that's what happened. That's, basically what we thought was going to happen happened. So they got fight of the night, I believe. So an extra 50 G's for those guys. Good on them.
And I was just looking at the UFC rankings just for the fun of it here at welterweight. And Barberino's not like in the top 15 or anything right now. Number 15 at the very end is Michelle Pereira. I'd be down to see that fight given the styles.
Yeah, that'd be a great matchup.
Yeah. Speaking of guys named Pereira, though, Alex Pereira, he wrestled. He fought Sean Strickland. So I'm watching this fight with a mutual friend of ours, and he's asking me about Sean Strickland. And, I'm telling him Pereira's a kickboxer. And he's like, so what does this guy Strickland do? I'm like, well, he's an MMA fighter. I was like, he can punch, he can wrestle. I was like, he'll clinch. I was like, and I'm watching the fight, but I'm like, I don't really like the way he's fighting right now. I was like, his chin's kind of up in the air. I was like, it looks like he's playing into his opponent's game, which is something we thought might happen. But as we got closer, I was kind of going back almost what I was thinking. And I was like, nah, he's not going to do that. And then the guy we're watching it with, he's telling me, he's like, well, yeah, I mean, maybe you don't know enough about this guy. Maybe, he could out kickbox him. And I'm like, no, I don't think that's a good idea. And
that's what he thought.
As soon as I said that, bam, like he got laid out. And I was like, and that's why it's not a good idea to do that.
Yeah. Why Strickland? I know he said that he could beat any glory kickboxer on the roster or whatever. Well, I think we proved that that's not accurate. it was amazing to watch him just walk into those shots like he could take them. So, yeah, Pereira just set up a easy trap and caught him with that left hook and put him out bad too. So, I mean, I guess we get the story we want as far as Izzy and Pereira next, but
Yeah.
Sean Strickland's got to be kicking himself after that one.
Yeah, because he had created a potential story for himself too. He actually, I thought, kind of got a little verbal up on Adesanya. Like usually you don't see Adesanya get rattled verbally, but I thought Strickland at the press conference kind of like, all right, like I think he pissed off Adesanya, and I'm thinking, all right, good on him. He's creating himself, interest in this, and I think Adesanya's coach even said that he fumbled the bag, and hopefully he can get back there someday, but that's on him. Basically saying, like. You could have won this fight if you fought a certain way.
Yeah, he has wrestling skills. It was an ego thing,
Absolutely. Cage Mike Q in the comments, he said it's all about patience. Probably, should have been a little more patient and should have wrestled him, he also says. But at the end of the day, Strickland did not. He decided, he knew it was best. Well, this fight kind of goes in with the main event, but let's get to the featherweight co-main event first. Volkanovski versus Holloway. I think we all thought, at least here, we thought Holloway was going to pull it off. We recognized that Volkanovski had won the previous fights, although arguably, especially that second one. But we realized that, hey, these are the two best featherweights in the world. What we also knew is that we were going to probably see different versions of these guys coming in to a certain level. They were going to come in and fight. I got to say, I love Max. And but at the end of the day, goddamn, this Volkanovski is such a fucking beast. Like, I couldn't believe the performance he had. Like, it was like he's just another level. And if he's doing that to Max right now, I don't think anyone's going to touch this guy.
It was heartbreaking to watch Max just get beat up for 5 rounds. He's my favorite fighter. You can see I got the shirt, but I love Max. I was questioning some of his techniques he was doing. He was trying to avoid the leg kick, but he was lifting his lead leg, and diving in. And then, it's just telegraphing that he's coming in, and then Volkanovski was landing on him every time. And so I don't know. Volkanovski was faster, and he's just able to hit Max with everything, where Max was having a hard time touching him. So, time to go back to the drawing board, figure it out. Probably not going to get another shot at Volkanovski, so he's got to hope Volkanovski goes up to 155, which is a very real possibility, and I think he has some good chances to cause people problems up there too. He's looked great.
Just to talk some featherweight potential fights here. Yair Ortega next. Obviously, he already holds the victory over Ortega. So if Yair is able to pull that off, and he has shown the improvements in his game that he can beat the guy like Ortega and finish the guy like Ortega, maybe, I think Yair is definitely a guy who will probably get that shot. I know Josh
Emmett is in the mix too. Yeah.
Absolutely. Emmett actually is number 3. I'm just saying this. If Yair finishes Ortega, I'm going to call it right now. I think he's going to win. But Emmett's right there if he's going to stick at featherweight. And one other guy I just want to point out, Arnold Allen, who's number 5 and has dominated anybody they've put in front of him, really. I'd have to say those are the potential fights. Who do you think presents potentially the most problems for Volkanovski out of that group?
Arnold Allen, I would say, probably. He's the most well-rounded. He's super fast, slick boxing, very powerful, taller. I think he's probably the toughest. But I would say dark horse, who's not in the conversation quite yet, would be Thug Nasty Bryce Mitchell. Not the best striking, but he gets if he gets a hold of Volkanovski, he's going to be doing everything he can to take him down. He's not going to give up. He's probably going to get beat up on the feet, but if he gets it down to the ground, his submission skills are excellent. And if I just don't, I think he could be a dark horse to get a sub on Volkanovski if they ever fought. So
interesting. I thought you were going to say Cejudo. Interesting.
Fuck Cejudo. Obviously, he has an opportunity, but until he comes back and actually gets a fight, I mean, he's just going to call out everyone in front of him. So,
all right, main event, Stylebender, the fight, the entrance. Ironic that Vince McMahon was in the crowd when he pulled his entrance here too. But yeah, he does a complete Undertaker entrance. He has Jared Kinnear on the urn, which I thought was kind of fun. I actually enjoyed that. Stylebender always has an interesting entrance. We'll say that. Of course, the joke was the entrance was way more entertaining than the actual fight. I had a theory on this too, that Stylebender has kind of become the new Anderson Silva in the sense that now everybody kind of game plans for this. And like Kenny Florian was talking about this on the Anik and Florian podcast, that Stylebender almost needs a very specific style opponent, dance partner, to have that kind of fun stylistic fight. He's a counterpuncher. And he said normally Kinnear would be that guy, but Kinnear didn't really fight like Kinnear would normally fight. And understandably, he probably didn't want to get knocked out. And I think that's the potential here now we're kind of facing with Stylebender. Now, Alex Pereira, if they end up fighting next, and I'll let you talk about all this too, but I think, okay, stylistically, we should be getting a knockout there. Unless, of course, they're both going to stick around and try to counterpunch each other. It's just really, you don't know now, I think, when you get this guy on the card. That being said, impressive performance from a technical standpoint. Maybe not exciting, but a technical standpoint, exciting. And at middleweight, this is going to be a tough guy to beat. I don't think Pereira's going to get it done. What do you think of everything overall? What do you think about the future fight? What do you got?
So Izzy has become a boring champ. I don't want to be too harsh. He's fighting the best of the best in a fantastic division. And he needs to do what he needs to do to win. But I do see, that there's opportunities he could be a little bit more offensive. As far as the Anderson Silva thing, I feel like Anderson was still knocking people out. Maybe not with the frequency that he was early on, but Adesanya's become champ and he's basically not finishing anyone now. So, if you're gonna have a walkout like he does every single time, I just feel like your fighting style should reflect that personally. But I think it's just disappointing because we know how great he can look. And that's what we're expecting. That's what we want. So, maybe it's more on us as fans as far as managing expectations of what's going to happen. So, you're right, though. Technically, he looked fantastic, as he always does and probably always will. Props to him. It's another good win. I think you are right when it comes to the Alex Pereira fight. I'm hoping we're going to get a little bit more back and forth between these two guys. If we get a super defensive, passive Izzy because he's already been knocked out by Pereira, we might see another boring fight, though. So I don't know. We'll see when that comes. I want to see what Izzy's headspace looks like in the lead up to that fight. But the fact that Alex is the only person to ever knock him out might make this another boring fight. So
true. Although I have to say, Pereira's lack of experience could also make this an exciting fight because he might not. There's really no other way for him to win.
I don't see Izzy going for a takedown or anything like that, though. I just don't see that happening. So I think we're just going to see a kickboxing match, basically, with 4-ounce gloves.
Yeah. And with 4-ounce gloves, which is interesting because this whole thing, this Pereira experiment could work.
He might be our next champ. Yeah.
It's interesting how that works because styles make fights. If Izzy gets over Pereira next, I'm looking at like these rankings here at middleweight. Whitaker beaten, Kinnear beaten, Vittori beaten, Brunson beaten, Costa beaten. I mean, then we start looking at Sean Strickland.
Well,
yeah.
So Luke Rockhold has a fight coming up against Borrachino, Costa. If he wins, I'd like to see that matchup. I think that is a good matchup.
Interesting.
Stylistically.
Yeah. I think if he gets by a pair, I mean, even though he had trouble, like I'd like to see him try to go back at light heavyweight one more time, see what he can do at that. Because I mean, I think it could lead to some more exciting fights too, because he's going to have to come at it differently.
Stylistically, him and Yuri is a great fight.
Sure.
Jan is just so big and so strong and powerful. I think that was tough for Izzy. So I mean, Yuri is big, strong, and powerful too. So. But I think stand-up wise, he's more willing to be in a technical fight with him.
Yeah, I'd like to see. I'll throw one more before we get to this coming week's fight night. I'd like to see maybe Jared Cannonier and Sean Strickland next. Like, I think you know what, they're close enough in rankings and stuff like that. They're both coming off losses over the weekend. Let's just see what happens.
Yeah, see Cannonier knock him out.
That's what I think is going to happen. But you know what? It's also, to me, it's like it gets Jared Cannonier a win. He gets back moving, and we'll see where he's at. And for Strickland, if he can pull off a win over the guy who just fought, it puts him back in contention. So to me, that's why I think that would probably be the interesting fight to make next.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. All right, we got this week's fight night coming up here. Rafael dos Anjos, Rafael Fiziev.
There's only one prelim fight that I, highlighted. There's some, interesting fighters on there. Sure. There's a guy's name I can't pronounce. His first name is Kennedy. Can't pronounce his last name. African Savage is his nickname, but he's a great fighter. Antonio Shevchenko is on there. But the fight that I think is going to be really good is Cynthia Carvillo versus Nina Nunes. So both tough fight for both fighters, and both fighters need a win. So I'm not sure who to pick. I think it's a very close fight. I think it's just about who comes in the right headspace, honestly. So, but that's a good one to keep an eye out for. Could be a great fight.
All right. And main card's going to kick off with the veteran, Michael Johnson. This guy's got 20 wins, 17 losses. Wow, 17 losses. I didn't know, actually.
He lost like 4 or 5 in a row recently until his last win.
9 knockouts, 2 submissions. I mean, he has fight a night twice. And he's had a knockout a night before with Danny Castillo, and a performance tonight. He actually holds a victory where he knocked out Dustin Poirier.
That was a long time ago.
It was. Yeah, Dustin became a completely different fighter. Jamie Malarkey's 14-5, 10 knockouts, 3 subs, 1 decision. So Malarkey likes to kind of bring it. And he's had a fight tonight as well against Brad Riddell. Performance of the night against Devontae Smith. Looks like there should be fireworks stylistically. However, given that Johnson is just kind of up there in his MMA career, I'm not sure how old he is, but just that he's been around for so long, I'm going to go with Malarkey. I'll go with a second-round TKO.
Yeah. Johnson's still super dangerous, but I think Malarkey stops him in the third via TKO.
All right. Jamie Pickett, middleweight fight versus Dennis Tuluni. I believe that's how you say his name. Pickett is 13-7, 8 KOs, 1 sub, 4 decisions. Dennis is 9-6, 8 KOs, 1 decision, 0-1 in the UFC. So he's going to be looking for that win hard. I'm going to go with Pickett. I'm going to say decision.
Yeah, I don't know anything about either guy, so I'm going to do the same, Pickett by decision.
And then we got Jared Venata. This isn't like an overwhelming card, folks. Jared Venata, Vendera, I think.
Yeah, actually. Vendera.
Yeah, Jared Vendera versus Chase Sherman, heavyweight fight. Sherman's 15-10. Like, you look at the records of a lot of these guys, it's
this whole card is full of people who have 2 or 3 losses in a row fighting each other. So a lot of people are going to be getting cut after this card.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a great card for that reason too.
Yeah, right. A lot of desperate fighters for sure.
Sherman's an interesting guy. He's a former bare knuckle heavyweight champion too. But yeah, 14. So he's only won a decision once in his victories. Fight at night one time. And I did not actually write down Jared Vendera's record here. Oops. But I don't know. Let's see. What do you?
He has a typical heavyweight record. Bunch of wins.
Yeah.
Moderate amount of losses.
3 in a row. He's lost now.
Yeah.
12-8. I'll go with Sherman. Heavyweight. I'll go with knockout. I'll go round 1.
I'm going with Sherman, boring decision, because both guys are going to be too passive because they don't want to get knocked out.
Then we got Said Nurmagomedov versus.
This is a sleeper fight right here.
Yes, I was noticing that. Douglas Silva de Andrade. Nurmagomedov, he's got 15 wins, 2 losses, 4 knockouts, 4 submissions, 7 decisions. Performance of the night. And DeAndrade is 28-4-1. So plenty of experience here. 20 KOs, 2 subs, 6 decisions. He's had 2 performances of the night. I'm going to go with Nurmagomedov. Based on the few fights I've seen with these guys, I'm going to go Nurmagomedov with the wrestling. I think he probably can get it done, and I think decision, though.
Yeah, Douglas is a super dangerous striker. He has loads of experience. Saeed is fairly well-rounded. Obviously, comes from Dagestan. I'm sure he's related to Khabib in some facet. He has a little bit more stand-up than Khabib was known for. So I think if he can avoid getting clipped on the feet, he'll grind out a decision. But I think it'll be a pretty exciting fight.
And then our co-main event, I'm not too familiar with either of these guys.
They're both coming off Dana White's Contender Series. Well, they have fights in the UFC, but they are Dana White Contender Series alumni.
Mario Barolo?
Sure. I don't know how to pronounce his name.
Against Armin
Petrosian.
All right. Petrosian 7-1, 6 KOs, 1 decision. Cario is 11-1, 4 KOs, 3 subs, 4 decisions, so a little more well-rounded. I'll take the striker. I'll go with Armin.
Yeah, it's a high-level fight from 2 relatively unknown guys. I think both these guys are going to have long careers in the UFC, but I'm going to go with Petrosian on this one. I think he's going to hand Borojo his first KO loss in the first round.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't pick a way. So, yeah, I'll go KO. I'll say round 2. I'll say it takes a little longer. Dos Anjos. All right, main event. Rafael Dos Anjos, Rafael Fiziev. Dos Anjos, always a tough out for anybody. Dos Anjos is 31-13, 5 KOs, 16 subs, and 10 decisions. Former UFC lightweight champion. He's had fight of the night 3 times, submission of the night, performance of the night 4 times. So he's not, I don't know if this is anything to brag about, but he's got most unanimous decision wins in UFC history. So to me, though, that also says that, he's a grinder. He's a guy that can go all 5 rounds. Rafael Fiziev is 11-1, 7 KOs, 1 sub, 3 decisions. He's had fight of the night twice, performance of the night twice. This looks like a really good fight and ultimately a really great test for Fiziev here if he gets it done. I'm going to say this is going to go all 5 rounds. I'll go with the old warhorse. I'll go with RDA, but I can see this going either way.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of both of these guys. My heart says Dos Anjos by sub. I know he has good wrestling and great Brazilian jiu-jitsu, but he's 37 years old. And I think it's Fiziev's time. He's incredibly dangerous on the feet. I talked about this last week when we were talking about Brad Riddell, but he used to be a Tiger Muay Thai kickboxing instructor. And you've seen it in his fights, like when he wheel kicked Brad Riddell in the head and KO'd him in his last fight out. So incredibly dangerous on the feet. He's defensively sound. There's multiple clips of him on the internet doing the matrix defense where he bends backwards to avoid a kick and it goes right over his head. So I think with that great defense standing, he's going to set some traps for Dos Anjos on the feet. Dos Anjos fancies himself a striker as well. He's incredibly well-rounded, but I don't think that he's just going to go for takedowns. I think he's going to play the striking game on the feet, and he ends up getting caught in round 3 or 4 with something spectacular, wheel kick, clinch, knee, something like that. So I'm going to go with Fiziev. I'll say ultimately round 3 KO.
All right. Should be a good fight. Probably could be fight of the night too on this card too. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see what the winner holds at welterweight. Actually, it'd be interesting too to see what might be next for one of these guys too. Usman's got a fight with Edwards coming up, so too, right?
Is this a welterweight or is it lightweight? I know that Dos Anjos has gone up and down. I just can't remember.
If I thought it was welterweight. Now you got me second guessing.
Is it? Let's just make sure.
No, this is lightweight. You're right.
Okay.
Yeah. I was wondering. Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Well, we'll see then at lightweight. That division's so fucking stacked.
Yeah, neither one of these guys are getting close to that top 5 currently. So.
Right. Yeah.
They need to win a couple fights. It's so log jammed and stacked up there. So.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. Like, Dos Anjos is 7. Fiziev is 10. So if he can beat number 7, then you're looking at Dariush, Chandler, Makhachev, Justin Gaethje, Poirier over. It's gonna be tough to get any of those fights because
Fiziev and Gaethje would be a great fight if he wins. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you can get a Gaethje fight, that might be available. It's just and Justin's such a big name, but Justin probably needs a fight coming up.
Yeah.
So
RDA versus Dariush. I don't know if that fight has ever happened. It might have already happened, but that's another super great matchup.
No, maybe the winner fights Gaethje. Either way.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I've never seen either one of those fights. So okay. And it's hard to say. I mean, Dariush is right around the corner. Him or Islam. Are they scheduled to fight for each other?
No, I don't think so. I think there's just been talks and hasn't materialized.
Because there's some talks of Makhachev should get the shot at Charles Oliveira next, and some want to see him fight Dariush.
Yeah, I want to see him fight Dariush. I think that fight would be phenomenal.
Yeah, I would agree.
Somebody's got to fight the champ. So
I think Poirier and Gaethje honestly would be a great fight at this point too, to run it back. Just because they're the 2 biggest names, they're number 2 and number 3, and then to see almost who wins and kind of who could still be sitting at that possibility to get a title shot. Because then if you're almost doing like a little contenders tournament there too. Makhachev, Dariush, and then the winner of that one gets Oliveira. And then if Poirier beats Gaethje, you could always sit out and wait. We could do Poirier Oliveira a second time. They've only fought one time, too, if he won. And obviously, if you get a new person in there, you could do that too. So
yeah.
But and same with Gaethje too. Who knows? Lightweight, always stacked, always interesting. It'll be good to see what happens there. Why don't we tell people what we got coming up one more time?
Yeah. So let's see. Next week, July 16th, UFC Fight Night, Ortega versus Rodriguez. Then later on in the month, July 23rd, UFC Fight Night, Blades versus Aspinall from London, 3 p.m. Eastern card. And then the very end of the month, July 30th, we get UFC 277, Pena versus Nunes 2.
Absolutely, which is also going head-to-head with SummerSlam again, too. So
WWE, shit.
I don't think it's going to be a normal thing necessarily, but because they're doing some Saturday shows now, this is going to happen.
Some overlap, yeah.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see. They won't be running in Vegas against each other this time, though. So, but some good stuff coming ahead. All right, guys, this is the Combatcast. We'll see you next week. Thanks for tuning in.